The Bowspring class right now, and we're going to go over some of the basics. What is the bowspring? And I'll lead you through the posture, and then we'll do a little move and then groove in. Welcome everybody. Hey Jacob. Hey Lonnie. Yay! So glad you made it. What's up, girl? All right, so I guess we'll get started. We got some people watching now, and so happy to have you. If you guys have any questions throughout, type them in the chat box. I'll try to keep up with them, but if I can't, I'll get them later. But if I can, hopefully we'll try to do this interactive style. So what is the bowspring? The bowspring is a posture of readiness. So you're ready, ready and able to face everyday life as it comes your way, and you're ready for any danger or obstacles. And you have your back, you're able to accept those with grace and ease. Bowspring is a template of a posture that you can apply to any movement or action. So you can apply this template to anything you do, so such as running, jumping, sitting in your car. You can do the bowspring when you're playing hockey. You can do it when you're surfing. There's a lot of surfing bowspring retreats that are popping up. I'm thinking about doing my own. It makes any athletic activity easier to do when you're doing the bowspring during it. So that's something that's really cool. Bowspring is also totally accessible. You can do it if you're an Olympian to make your athletic activities even more better, or you can do it if you're sitting in the hospital bed. There's really no limitations to who can do this. I helped my grandfather in a bowspring position by propping him up with pillows, and he told me he felt great relief with that. Bowspring is revolutionary. It goes against what the modern notion on what is good posture. So it departs from what other theories and practices have told us. There's some that it does align with as well, and that's significant and worth noting. But you'll notice a lot of differences between bowspring and modern postural yoga, or the typical yoga that you're used to. Bowspring not only is the postural template that you can apply to your daily life, but it's also it's been systematized into a series of postures, so you can actually use it as an athletic activity itself. It's got its own postures, just like yoga does, and some of them there are certainly derived from modern postural yoga, and some of them are crafted on their own, and they're really beautiful and lovely, and there's no limit to it. You can, as long as you're in the bowspring postural template, you can make your own bowspring pose theoretically. It just has when it follows the template that I'm going to teach you now, then you'll know you're all good. So bowspring also is based off of new understanding, new findings on the science of fascia and healthy connective tissue. So that's why we do it, is because we found in modern postural yoga and other activities that they're really breaking down our joints and connective tissue, and this is a more healthy, more healing way to move your body in space. So the difference between, we'll start with the posture. So the posture that we're most used to in this daily life is we call the C curve, and so that's the head forward, looking at your phone, pelvis tucked under, kind of deal, heel walking. The C curve is the seat that you take in an airline chair. The C curve is what you sit in when you're driving to work every day. The C curve is how you relax on your recliner. The C curve might be the way you cuddle up in bed. So we spend a lot of our days in the C curve, especially in this digital day and age where we're sitting at our desk all day, or especially at a laptop. Oh, that's the worst. So since your hands are here, if your laptop on your desk, then your head has to be here. It puts you in this C shape, and if you don't watch yourself, you get stuck there. So wherever your body, your fascia, your connective tissue stays in the longest is where it develops these webs that you get stuck in eventually. So you know that feeling when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is like want to stretch. Well, what has happened is during the middle of the night, you haven't moved as much as you moved in the day, and your fascia is building these webs and networks, and that's why when you wake up in the morning you feel stiff, is you're breaking away those webs and networks that you formed in the stillness, and that's where you get that good morning stretch going on. But also the thing is, the more time you spend in that C shape, the harder those webs are going to be to break apart. So I totally believe that your history, your trauma, your drama is hidden in your body. So, and you don't even know it. I've been looking at people a lot. I was a yoga teacher first for years, and now I've moved to the Bowspring, and I can see typical holdings in people based on their emotional patterns, and it's really fascinating and interesting. So the C-shaped spine, I gave you an example of that, and that's pelvis tucked, head hunched over. So the opposite of that is what we do in the Bowspring. We call it the double S curve. So the head is back, the rib cage is back, the hips are tilted forward at an anterior tilt, and the body weight is in the paw of our foot, so the front of our foot. So what we get here is much different in look than the C shape. So here I am, I've collapsed into the C shape, and this is how I used to spend my day. I'd walk into a room kind of like this, arms in, and this is a posture of closedness. It's a posture that you would take if you were in fear, or if you were scared, or if you look to nature, animals, they close up and cover their belly, their midsection, when they're in danger. It's a way to protect the internal organs. So Bowspring is the opposite of that. So where one posture closes off and keeps you safe, the Bowspring posture is a posture of openness. You're opening your belly to the world. You're holding yourself up in space, you're holding your joints up in space, and you're telling the world, I'm here, I'm available, I am present. And you're taking that on with optimism, with presence. So the Bowspring is about openness. It's about receiving signals from the earth and receiving feedback too. So it's physical and it's metaphorical as well. Whereas the C shape is a closed position. You're closed to new ideas. You're in sadness. You're stuck in fear. So the Bowspring has a lot of benefits. I think I've started to mention the positive aspect of the Bowspring. One of the things I found most phenomenal about it was this positive mindset that came out of it. And I didn't even know it was going to happen. You move the body first, you change your posture, and your whole life changes. It's really, really beautiful thing. I can walk into a room now, and whereas before I was hunched over looking down at the ground, now I'm looking up, my head is back, I can see people face to face, and they see me, and it's a whole different world out there. Also, something really interesting is when I go to a meeting or a group with a bunch of people, people will adjust their posture to match mine, and it changes the way you feel about yourself, especially if you tend to be shy and withdrawn your whole life. It's really cool. So other things that it does, people have less pain, especially in their joints, because instead of stacking our bones on top of each other or crunching them up, we open the space between them. So there's less inflammation. There's more power. So if you already are pretty athletic, you're going to get more power from your athleticism, because we use physics in a way to give us the mechanical advantage. There's also an aspect of courage that shows up that with a Bowspring that is unlike other practices that I've tried. Focus of mind, positive outlook, strength, all those things are great benefits. So without further ado, I'm going to go through the whole body and teach you the Bowspring posture. So I'll start with what we call in Bowspring the radiant heart, which is actually the rib cage and a mental image of a loving center. So you could, if you want to try that with me now, just become mindful of your heart area, your heart space, this area in your rib cage, and feel it expand with your breath and get bigger. So the rib cage in the bowspring is vertical, so it's up and down, and I like to think of it as a barrel. So instead of just flattening and expanding from the sides or from the front when we breathe, the bowspring rib cage expands circumferentially. All the way around it gets bigger. So from the front it gets bigger, from the back it gets bigger, from the side it gets bigger. Your ribs will open up from the sides, back and forth, this way and that. Your back will go that way, the heart will go that way. It's something that was really unheard of before, like how do I open my back ribs, you know? And it's something you get to access in the bowspring. So where everybody else is worried about, oh, I need to stretch my hamstrings, I'm thinking about how can I stretch my right floating rib, you know? And hopefully you'll understand the bliss and how to stretch your right floating rib someday. I promise you, if you keep with this, you will. So the shoulders in the bowspring, the shoulders are up, like radiating in a V from the heart and apart. So if I were standing next to me and I would give this assist, I would take my shoulder and I would pull it up and away. And if you had two people doing that at the same time, it would feel really good. So you can think of it as if you were a baby and somebody were gonna pick you up and then spread the hands apart. That's what the shoulders do. They lift up and they spread apart. They're gonna spread apart equally from the collarbones, but they'll also widen from the shoulder blades too. So the shoulders come up and apart, which is a huge departure from modern postural yoga and modern ideas on good posture, which tells us exactly to do this, which is to pull the shoulders back and drop them down the back. So that's not bowspring. Bowspring opens them and lifts them. From the side, they open as well. The humerus, which is the arm bone, rotates outward inside of the ball and socket joint. And this one is something that was one of my holding places. I'm still learning how to open it up, but there's pictures of me before this transformation when my arm bone would curl forward like this. And you can see pictures of me doing it from the front. It looked a little bit like this, and from the side it's like this. Okay, so the bowspring opens that up. And it feels a little weird at first, and it might look a little funny, so get in there if you're trying it with me and try to rotate the humerus outward, lift the shoulders, float the shoulder blades, open the collarbones just as much. It feels really emotional too. So the next is the arms. So in the bowspring, the arms are in front of the body, they're forward of the body, and the elbows are lifted. See? So this is different from, a lot of people have a postural habit of folding the arms in to protect the core, but we're not in any kind of like danger most of the time where we need to do that. So now we have this open stance where we can push our arms forward and feel more freedom when we lift our shoulder girdle. So the hands in the bowspring, this is where we get really beautifully intricate here. The hands. So the hands are softened on the top. And the palms have something called a hollow in them. And a hollow, you can think of it as a carving in, a joint, a bend, an angle. So in the palm, you would squeeze your thumb mound and your pinky mound together. The palms are active, but the fingers soft. And this was one of the harder things for me to grasp when I first started learning about the bowspring, because my fingers just want to grip everything white knuckle. So that's me trying so hard to understand, and that's one of my tendencies, is to pull the fingers in. Also, the fingers are curved at each joint, so you've got 3 joints in each finger, 1, 2, 3, and each joint bends, and they bend forward, so they don't bend the other way. So the thumb is like a big one where a lot of people hyperextend. So in the bowspring, you wouldn't do that. You would bend here, and the last thumb joint is here. Bend, 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 bend. So I'm giving you the template here. Once you learn the template on your own, then you can, sorry, I lost you guys for a second. Once you learn the template on your own, then you can apply these moves to, or this posture to anything that you do. So hands, engaged palms, hollows at the palms, soft curled fingers. Got it? Cool. Moving on to the feet. So the feet are similar to the hands. The feet, let me get a prop here. So with the foot, the top of the foot is soft, and the toes also curl down too. So this is quite hard to do for most people, because most people have the tendency to lift the toes up and flare them, and there's a lot of people whose toes automatically curl and lift up. So we soften the top of the foot, toes go down. The body weight in the feet is in the paw of the foot, what we call it. So the paw of the foot, the paw of the foot is the mounds, and then the tops of the toes. The heel of the foot is light, just like an animal. So when you see the footprint of an animal, when you see the footprint of an animal in the earth, you don't see their heel, and that's what we're doing in the bowspring. So we're in the paw of our foot. The heels are always light. Okay. The legs in the bowspring, the legs are bent slightly, so ever so slightly at the knee. There's a pocket or a hollow. Like I said before, there's a hollow at the knee. So the knees are lifting up and forward. The thigh bones are rooting in their sockets, and the shins are pressing forward. Moving up to the hips. So here's another one of the big areas of the bowspring. The hips have an interior tilt. They're tilted forward. The pubic bone points down to the earth. The tailbone lifts. Try it with me now. Lift your booty, lift your booty. Tailbone up. And when you tilt that, you can feel a stretch in the lower belly. The sit bones will separate as the pelvic floor opens. So there's a lot going on in the hips here. They're tilted forward. It's opening from the sit bones. The belly is opening and stretching. The next section of the body is the waist. So the waist is going to get longer and taper in. So that's one of the things that draws a lot of people to the bowspring, is because it gives you a nice, beautiful, proportionate tapered waist. So the waist gets longer, and there's maximum distance between the pubic bone and the sternum. So in the bowspring, there's very few, if any, poses I can think of where we shorten the distance between the pubis and the sternum. So that area is lengthening. The waist gets longer from the front, from the back, and from the sides. It tapers in. The next step is the neck. So the neck is similar to the waist in that it gets longer and it tapers in the sides, and it tapers in the back. The front of the neck is soft and open in the throat. And the next and last area of the body is the head. So the head is such a beautiful esoteric area in the bowspring. So the head even expands circumferentially. The muscles of the face soften, the jaw detaches from the top, and that softens as well. The eyes are at the horizon. So the eyeball is in the middle of the socket, the eyes are at the horizon. Do I have any questions so far? Okay, so we don't have any questions so far. I'm going to go into a practice. Is anybody still watching? Is this thing working? Well, if it doesn't work, then I'll do it again tomorrow, okay? Okay, we're gonna go into a practice here. If somebody's watching, just say, hey, I'm here. All right, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, let's do some movement. Okay. All right, so we'll start with our paws in the earth. Our hips are sliding back, and our rib cage is floating in front of the hips. So hips glide back, hips tilted, rib cage in front of the hips. Arms in front of body, soft curled fingers, soft curled toes. Heels are light. That's the Bowspring postural template. And this pose is called Earth Pose. Belly long, hips back. Find a pulse. So Bowspring is dynamic. It's moving. It's grooving. There's a pulse in it. We don't just find a pose and then hold it still. You move with your body. You find your own rhythm. It's kind of like a little dance. So find a pulse, Earth Pose. Little bouncy, 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 bouncy. All right, so lighten the heels, hips back, belly open, waist long, shoulders lift, arms forward, head back. Find bliss, find bounce. Hands, squeeze at the palms, soft fingers for seed hands. Seed hands is like a cone, a cone-shaped fist with soft fingers. Lift two seed hands forward, press them forward a lot. Find a bounce, light heels, hip back, knees forward, pulse. Lift two seed hands up and forward, turn your elbows out, V-vector arms. So V-vector is in front of you, not straight up and down. Remember, arms in front of body. Seed hands soft. Press far away, head back, heart back, hips back. Find your pulse. Feel the joy in this pose as well. This is a pose of victory. So I'll take this pose before I have like scary thoughts or public interactions or things that I'm worried about. Okay, get into the paw of your foot and lift your heels lightly, see if you can. Hovering heel. Good. And then lower the heels down. Start to seaweed sway the arms. So your rib cage is moving, and it's moving separately from the hips. So we're starting to break away the hips from the rib cage. It's quite freeing. A lot of people get tight in the side body. So lateral movement is the first to go when we start to age. And then bring your seat hands down forward. And we'll talk about the feet a little bit. So like I said, in the feet, the paw of our foot presses down, and there's an action that we call dig drag. So a dig drag, I'll do an exaggerated version of it now. I will dig my paw into the earth and energetically drag it back, okay? So I just actually dragged it back, but I can do it without even moving it. So I could dig the paw in the earth, I'm digging right now, and I could drag it back. So the drag back is going to ignite the posterior chain of muscles. So let's do that together. Dig, drag right, dig, drag left, dig, drag right, dig, drag left. Now do it without even moving. So we're energetically digging in the floor and dragging the heels back. Any questions before we move on? Okay, we're moving on. So dig, drag. So we're gonna dig, drag right, lean in the left foot, find a little bounce here, reach the seed arms in front of you, dig, drag right, and take it off the earth. So even though it's off the earth, it's still digging and dragging its heel back. Press two sit bones back behind you, open your belly, stay long, pulse. And we're gonna land it on the floor. Toe pads touch down first. Dig, drag as you land. Okay, let's do the other side. So lean in the right leg. Dig, drag your left foot to break it away. And pulse. Yeah, drag that left heel back. Good. And then to plant it, take it slow, hips back, knees forward, toes touch. Dig, drag down, good. Everybody doing okay? All right, so now we're going to do crescent pose. So reach 2 arms forward in front of you, elbows bend, and hands form 2 domes. The domes go onto the side of your hand. This is called ecstasy arms. I'm gonna get a little close to show you a little bit more about ecstasy arms. So the hand is a dome, and the palm is hollowed. The fingers are soft, and our fingertips, not the prints, the fingertips are on the side of the head. So the more you dome your palms, the easier this is gonna be. So now I know I'm with you there in TV land, and I can see you, and you're trying this, and your elbows are going wide. And how do I know that? Because that's what everybody does. And I want you to just squeeze them forward. Yeah, that's ecstasy. And find a pulse here in ecstasy arms. Yeah. And then we're gonna find an organic pulse here, and then we're gonna lift up and crescent to the right. Let your neck be long, let your hips glide back, let your elbows go forward. Maybe even start to tilt right ear to right shoulder, lengthening the left neck. Left ribs lift, body bows, arching over. Find some centering in the middle, bounce it out, and then we're gonna crescent left. Belly bows, hips back, knees forward, arch it over. Right ribs lift, pulse, and then bring it back center, good. That one's a hard one. So when I first started, ecstasy arms were really not much ecstasy for me, but I'm starting to get to a point where I can really enjoy them and see their benefits. So next we're going to get on the floor. So one of the things that I think is really important about the Bowspring is this is functional movement. So this is movement that you can use in your daily life. And I've seen so many people who've got to the point, and they're not even that old, where they can't get up and down off of the floor. And it's just really sad that people are losing their mobility earlier and earlier these days. Okay, so hips back, knees forward. Reach your arms forward, belly long. This is just so important here. So if you can, just bear with me here, really pay attention. So I'll come to the middle of my mat. So hips back, knees forward, eyes up, belly long. I'm gonna step back, right foot. Keep the hips back, keep the belly long, keep the eyes up, lower down. Yeah, kneeling, low lunge. And then I'm gonna lift up to do it on the other side, so belly long. Stay with me, eyes up. Dig into your left paw, lift up, and step together. Find a little bounce. Let's try other side. Hips back, belly long, eyes up. Dig, drag left, lift up, step back, lower down, belly long. Squat down, there you go. Beautiful. All right, eyes up, belly long, step right foot to come next to left. Lift some space between your ankles and the floor. We call this the ankle hollow. This will enable you to let your toes roll down like we saw on the template, and it'll give you some structure and stability here. Press your hips back. Reach to dome hands forward. Hips go back a lot, wiggle side to side, and reach your hands forward. Fingernails touch down first. Once the fingernails touch down, slide the hands to spring hands, palms down. Walk the knees back. Press space between the floor and your ankles, and press the floor so far away from your hands. Lift your tailbone, lengthen the belly, find a pulse. it's really powerful. It doesn't look like much, but I'm totally engaged right here. And give it a little wiggle side to side. Press the hips back, spring load. Inhale and lift into your back heart area, the place between your shoulder blades. Let it lift up so much your fingertips come off the floor, hips back, knees forward, and come belly long. Scoot your hips to the left, arms forward, belly long, eyes up, and step forward. Toe touches down first. Hips back, belly long, eyes up, and stand up. Beautiful. How's that for functional movement? Thank you for joining me. I really hope that you guys caught this video. I know I was having some technical difficulties. I hope that it worked. Take care. I love you all. Bye-bye.